Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Anointed Experience podcast. My name is Leo. As most of you know, I'm proud CSO of Anointed Touch Health, Fitness, and Beauty, the Anointed Experience podcast as well. And for some of y'all, the first time coming on, that means I'm the Chief Steward Officer. God is the CEO of the whole entire thing. So we're coming back on with another fitness tip using faith principles. And as always, you see, I got my sidekick, she's coming from all the way from Texas to come on to discuss some of the things that we're going to be discussing about how we're on a series um, in reference to being healthy and losing weight God's way. And this is the fourth part. We've done three parts already. But before that, I want Mai to introduce herself and just, some people know you, some people don't, but just introduce yourself, tell them where you're calling from and everything you are. She is a certified trainer as well. So we not coming from the wind. And let me make this clear, we're not saying we know everything. Some of this is just coming from our experiences and just our opinions as well, and just what God has shown us. All right.
Mhm.
So Mai, go ahead, do your thing.
Well, thanks, Leo. Hello, everyone. So glad to see you guys all here. Certified trainer, but got on this journey because of my own health issues, and trying to figure out how to heal myself, how to get myself back to a healthy state. Fell in love with the industry, fell in love with being able to help others, and here I am. So happy to be here.
Good, good. And like I said, everyone, she's calling from it's which what part? Houston? Is it Houston?
I'm north of Austin.
Austin, okay. So he's north
Mhm.
of Austin in Texas out there. And, out there we were talking off air about how hot it gets out there or whatever, but I'm so glad God brought each other in the pathway because she's such a good sister and a good friend. Um, but yeah, we're just here because like our mission and vision is we try to meet people where they're at. And
Mhm.
we try to help everybody in their struggles and in their successes, um, um, to help them be a better version of themselves. And by doing that, we use the principles of faith, fitness, and food. And so this is part of the reason why we're just trying to help people that's trying to become better versions of themselves and just need somewhere to start. And like I
Mhm.
said, we've been doing a series, and this is part four of the series. Just to recap, the first part, again, the whole series is under being healthy and losing weight God's way. And the first part was what are your goals and how to set them? That was part one. Part two was count the cost. Part three is how to take action. And then today, what we're going to talk about is understanding the process and taking it one step, one moment, and one day at a time. And the scriptures that I found relevant to me that we're going to use is when we're talking about the process is Mark chapter 4, verse 26 through 29. And this is the NLT version. And it says, Jesus, hold on. Is that 26? Yeah. Yeah, 4, 26 and 29. Um, it says, Jesus said, the kingdom of God is like a farmer who scatters seed on the ground. Night and day, while he's asleep or awake, the seed sprouts and grows, but he does not understand how it happens. The earth produces the crop on its own. First, a leaf blade pushes through, the heads of the wheat are formed, and then finally the grain ripens. And as soon as the grain is ready, the farmer comes and harvests it with a sickle, for the harvest time has come. That's part of the process that I wanted to use as an example as far as understanding the process and understanding that there is a process with everything. And with understanding there's a process with everything, there's also understanding that it takes time. And so in Matthew 6:34, um, um, what it states is, let me pull that up so I can read that for you. It says, so don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow brings its own worries. Today's troubles is enough. So What we're going to do is go through the first things we're going to do and talk about is the pitfalls of fast tracking, looking for quick fixes, or not wanting to go through the process. And one of the main things that we're going to talk about, it could be that is sustainability. A lot of times when you're moving too fast or looking for quick fixes or not willing to go through the process, it can be unsustainable because, you know, you haven't developed a healthy or lasting habit, right? When it's because in order for it to sustain, there has to be a process of developing good habits, developing a healthy habit, developing
Mhm.
um, good discipline in a sense. Like me and Maya was talking offline, motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going. So sometimes we get motivated, but we're just motivated just to get it done and not really get it done, but take what it needs to get it done because we're a right now kind of society. We want things right now. And I'm guilty of that too at times as well. But one of the main pitfalls when you're trying to do quick fixes or when you're trying to skip the process or you're trying to not take it day by day is sustainability. Sus sustainability. Sustainability. And Ma, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like being in this field for as long as I have, the only thing that has kept me going was developing those good habits. And it's not to say that I was like gung-ho, was consistently, disciplined. Sometimes I failed at certain points along the
Yeah,
way, but because I had that discipline, because I had those healthy habits, it has sustained me for years now. And so I've never gotten back to the level of unhealthiness that I have been when I first started, all because I had to go through that process. I had to learn, I had to figure out what was working for me, what wasn't working for me. And along the way, as my season changed, I had to adjust schedules, I had to adjust things, but prioritizing it and making it a lifestyle change is what will sustain it long term for you guys.
yeah, and I think what you just said was key. The key word I like is lifestyle change, right?
Hmm.
When you're in a process or when you're trying to part of uh trying to make it sustainable is gradual changes because
Hmm.
with gradual changes become part of a permanent lifestyle. But if
Right.
you're looking for quick fixes, it's not permanent. It's just for a short term. And then what'll happen is you'll find yourself going back to bad habits, going in or creating bad habits, or not being able to sustain what you're doing because it's no substance to it, right? There's no
Yeah.
substance to it. So it'll cause you to always rail off track. And as we stated in Mark 4, 26, it states that a man scatters seed on the ground night and day, whether he sleeps or gets up, the seed sprouts and grows, though he doesn't know how, or though he and doesn't understand. So sometimes you have to be willing to be okay to the unknown. A lot of times we want to know what is the outcome's going to be. We know what we want the outcome to be, but we
Hmm.
don't know how it's going to outcome. But we got to plant our seeds. Seeds. Part of the process is planting the seeds that we need to help things to sprout and to grow. But part of that is having faith in who God is and allowing Him to do the growing. As we plant, we can go to sleep. Long as we like the farmer, he put work in. So if we put the work in
Right.
it, God will build our character and build us to be able, long as we're willing to take the process and or walk in the process, he'll take that little bit that we put, that mustard seed of faith, and allow it and turn it into a character building moment where we'll start seeing lifestyle changes that are permanent. We'll start seeing good habits being created. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because in between planting the seed and then having it be fruitful, there's a lot of watering, there's a lot of
Yep.
de-weeding,
Yep.
and every plant's a little bit different. So depending on the plant that you're planting, which resembles like our bodies and stuff,
Yeah.
some of them requires different stuff. Like,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
plant potatoes and you have to plant it so far deep. Same thing with
Right.
asparagus. And then as the leaf grows, you have to put more soil on it to cover it, let it grow again so that it builds deep roots so
There you
that it
go.
could be 6 or 8 inches underground and it's going to thrive, right, with
Right.
those deep roots.
Right.
And then other plants that are planted, they don't require that process, but everybody's different. And just realize that, if you're good, when when you plant something, the Lord's created everything in that seed,
Yeah.
but you have to be faithful and disciplined with taking care of it up until it produces the fruit. And
Yeah.
once you understand how to plant a certain plant, you could replicate that every single year
Yeah.
and you're going to get the same results.
Yeah.
But you have to
Absolutely.
go through that learning process day in,
Yeah.
day out. You know, I have to de-weed this. I have to add more soil here. I have to water it maybe during a certain time because you don't want it to burn the leaves. I get rid of pests this way naturally, right? There's so much stuff that goes on in that. And, that's part of this whole process thing is learning how you develop and how you can um, follow a routine that works for you with your
Mhm.
lifestyle, and incorporating it into your lifestyle to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of those are great tips about uh, trying to make things sustainable, and another thing, when you read that verse, it says the earth produces the crops on its own. And it says God owns everything in the earth, including us. So then when you move
Hmm.
forward, it says the farmer comes and harvests with the sickle, for harvest time has come. So in other words, what I'm saying, as you begin to do a work with God and you work in this process with God, and you allow him to guide you as part of this process, then he's saying there will be a harvest if you just
Hmm.
put your trust in him and allow him. See, again, me and Mai has talked about this in earlier parts, that fitness is not too small to ask God for it. Fitness, sometimes I
Yeah.
think people look at fitness, if it's not a major issue like surgery or something like that, they don't look at fitness as part of something to add God to as part of their everyday living. But when you add God to it, then you have that help. You create a yoke between you and
Hmm.
God, right? And his grace is sufficient. So therefore, if his grace is sufficient, then you'll be sustained because of his sufficiency. Because so
Hmm.
therefore now you're connected, right, with him to be able to go through the process. So now that you'll go through the process, as it said, you see, I believe the leaf, first comes the leaf, right? Then comes the wheat, the blade, the wheat, and then finally the grain. There's a process of growth that he's trying to get you
Hmm.
to do. And it's the same way with working out. When you're trying to better your body, when you're trying to lose weight, there's a process. You got to create a deficit in your calories. You got to eat portion sizes. You got to work out so you can start shaving off the fat. Then there's other things that you got to do. You have to be mindful. It's a process, and it's a process. You got to set your goals, as we talked about earlier. So you just got to be willing to see it out, and just believe that as you see it, that God is watching over you, um, because you've had it under His umbrella, and it's working within His purpose. And it's not just about our purpose; it's within His purpose as well. Does that make sense, Ma?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Western world that we live in, we we are an abundant country,
Yeah,
compared to other countries. And I feel like sometimes it's, the way that the Lord has created this process for us, it brings us back to the roots, you know, of having that portion size, right? Disciplined. Um, and it's kind of hard because it's kind of like if you don't cultivate that discipline and the renewal of your mind about it, this world's going to eat you back, right?
yeah.
Suck you right back in.
Mm-hmm.
um and it's hard, it's not hard once you figure it out and you make that shift for yourself. But like, people ask me all the time because I'm a pescatarian. They're like, well, what do you eat? Like, where can we go out to eat? And it's like, I don't mind eating just salad. I don't mind
Right,
ordering a side of beans. It's
right.
people think that I have to have like this meal, this, entree, and it's shifting your mind to say, you know what? I'm still going to enjoy this time with you guys, but it doesn't have to look like how everybody else is, operating,
Yeah,
because I care more about what I'm feeding my body,
yeah.
and that's my normal. It doesn't have to be like everybody else's normal.
Right,
And so
right.
if you don't have that discipline, and that heart change and that mindset renewal, the world's going to suck you right back in because I have people that don't think like me in my life. I have people that, love to eat and, love to party or whatever stuff too, and I could join them, but I won't drink alcohol. It's just, you have to make these decisions and be set on them. And, and I don't, alcohol to me is not, um, I'm not saying it from a biblical perspective, although, you don't want to get drunk. But I'm not condemning people who do drink it. It is actually very toxic for your body. And that's why
Yeah,
I choose not to drink alcohol.
yeah, yeah,
There's toxicity in there. But that's the reason for that portion. But I'm just saying, understand who you are, who you want to be. And that's going to help you with the whole sustainability
yeah,
because you going into the world with your friends, with family, Thanksgiving, you know who you are, and you could sustain it.
yeah,
So
yeah. And then let me make this clear, and I think Ma mentioned it to you. Discipline don't mean perfection. Discipline is
no.
a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline and commitment and consistency is a journey. So that don't mean it's a straight line,
Yep.
right? It's gonna have some crooked lines in there sometimes, but the key is in order to be consistent, you got to be committed, and you got to be okay with messing up sometimes. I don't call people failures just because you lost a battle or you lost that day.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, you've become more experienced, so now you can learn how to adjust. And you don't make you a failure; it just makes you more experienced now, right?
Right.
I think the only way you fail in so many ways is if you're going to rebel. As
Mm-hmm.
long as you trying and you working and you coming at it, then we can lose games, but God's building his character is about growing. So long as you growing and you're allowed to arrive, to keep arriving, you got a chance to fix it and to learn from it. Does
Right.
that make sense? So
Yep.
the other one that I wanted to talk about also is the health risks of like trying to do quick fixes for weight loss, or just trying to move too fast, want to lose weight. One of the examples that I was thinking about was like The Biggest Loser, right? And some people compare themselves to The Biggest Loser, and not even just on the weight loss stance. You gotta one thing you have to think, you shouldn't be comparing yourself to nobody, because you are uniquely made, and you don't know everybody's whole entire journey. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at the outcome, and sometimes you're looking at them still in the middle of their journey or their process, right? Which sometimes cause you to go to the extreme because you're comparing yourself, right?
Right.
Well, back to The Biggest Loser, again, not even discussing weight loss yet, that's all they're doing. Most of us work. Most of us, are cooking our own food and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, we don't have chefs. We ain't got people from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you have to look at little stuff like that and be realistic with yourself. Does that make sense, man?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it'd definitely be nice, but most of us don't have that
Yeah,
luxury.
don't have the luxury unless you got that type of money to do that, but
But
now
it's also good for you to learn yourself too,
that's my
of
point.
like what's a combination of a healthy meal? What does that look like? I'm like always aware of like how much protein I'm taking in, for the whole day. Especially if I'm trying to gain muscles now. So, you know, everything's about protein right now for me.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
being in different seasons of your health journey, as you're learning, you could adjust those things because you're
Yeah,
adjusting to your different goals and stuff.
yeah.
And so, yeah, it's always better if you learn it for yourself so that, again, you can sustain it further down the road. Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely. That's now you went right into the next thing I was going to talk about
oh,
as far as like learning yourself, because the health risks now when you're trying to lose weight or become healthy and you losing weight too fast, some of the things that can happen is like nutrition. You can become deficient of your
mhm, yeah.
nutritions, right? And then you also, like we talked offline, muscle loss. You can lose muscle mass, which you need
Mhm,
your muscle, especially if you're trying to lose weight, because muscle helps shed fat,
yep.
and or weaken immune functions. Those are just some of the things that when you're losing weight too fast, and you can become weak and everything like that. And again, that goes back to a short-term mindset. When you're just
Mhm,
trying to lose and just want to get it off, just for a short-term mindset, rather than if you lose 25 pounds in 2 weeks, it's easier for you to put that back on rather than you lose
right.
8 pounds in a month, 2 pounds a week.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? So it's slowly coming off. So you'll look up and be like, dang, I'm down 40, 50 pounds in six,
yep.
7 months, which is a reasonable time. Where if you got someone who's losing 50 pounds in 2 months and then wonder why they put it all back on, because it just wasn't
Mhm,
it wasn't healthy. And there's other aspects to that. But and then too, the thing that you want to do, is also be truthful to yourself. You know, what am I really doing this for, and why am I trying to do it so fast? Is this really healthy? Am I really trying to make a lifestyle change, or I'm just trying to make a change for a style? You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? And you just want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, because you don't want to end up causing more harm than good.
right.
Does that make sense, Maya?
Yeah, definitely. And like if the nutrition aspect is so important because when you fuel your body correctly, it actually knows how to burn fat, right? It knows how uh work with your metabolism, right? And so then you could use all these different forms of not just your exercise, but there's also, just the daily activities and the movements
Yeah,
that you make that also burns fat, right? When
yeah,
you sleep, you could also burn fat if your organs and your nutrition is up to par. So if you actually like focus on the nutrition aspect of it and making sure your body has what it needs, you work out, you eat right, your body can burn 24/7, right? With just maybe not at the same levels, right? But it's the Lord had created your body to be so efficient that you could even burn while you're sleeping, you know?
rest.
But you have to make sure you have the right nutrition. And if you don't, some women, they get into these hormonal imbalances. That's really bad for you. They don't, sometimes they themselves don't understand the change that's happening. And
Hmm.
depending on the age that you're in as well. I mean, I have to worry about premenopausal stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
that's affecting me right now. Um, and then also like you end up getting burnt out, right? There's
yeah,
fatigue because you just don't have enough energy because you don't have the
yeah,
right nutrition.
yeah,
So be aware of that there's so many bad results that could potentially
yeah,
happen
yeah,
from trying to like go the fast track route.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like for me, I used to do this. I used to try to lose a lot of weight to like for like a wedding or
Hmm.
something, right?
Vacations or
But
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, how many times throughout our lives that's going to happen? And if
Hmm.
if you just make that lifestyle change, you're not constantly redoing that every single time.
Yeah,
You're just going to be comfortable with where you're at long term, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's another thing that you said that came to my mind too, with the nutrition deficiencies. Also, another thing, fast tracking, a lot of people do is they'll over exercise, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
They were over exercise, and they don't believe that you can over exercise and cause issues and cause problems
Mhm.
too. Like I had to tell a client, and I told a client, I said, this is my opinion. You can do your own research. You have your own belief. But I said, muscle growth don't happen in the gym. Muscle
Right.
stimulation happens in the gym. Muscle growth happen with rest. You
Yep.
have to get rest. Because if you, after a while, like you said, you said about burnout. That's what made it come to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
After for a while, you'll hit this peak and climb this mountain, but eventually, at some point, you're gonna crash, and you're gonna
Yep.
start seeing some of the signs of like being anxious, being angry. I mean, it's a lot of signs that come with when you're over exercising. And when
Mm-hmm.
you do that, then what you'll cause is a plateau, and your body ain't gonna do it because it's
Right.
wore. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's wore out. Because look at it this way: if you're doing your legs every day, and
It's gonna be
you're
hard.
not sure how to split this up. I'm not talking about the everyday thing, just walking and getting.
Right.
I'm talking about hitting exercise hard every day. Well, if you're constantly, because muscle growth happens when you break it down. If you
Mm-hmm.
constantly breaking it down every day, where does it get the chance to grow? Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
So over exercising, going for fast diets, those things are big health risks, big health risks that you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do. Again, that just goes back. You want something that's sustainable. And that goes into the next thing. It also messes with your mental and emotional. It's a lot of mental and emotional stress on
Yep.
you too. You know what I mean? And you said something harmonial, my,
Mm-hmm.
when you begin to stress, then your cortisol levels go up. Then when your
Yep.
cortisol level go up from over exercising or doing 3 hours of cardio in one session for every day, then what happens is it becomes counterproductive. So now you're
Mm-hmm.
wondering, well, why am I maintaining a lot of fat? Because your cortisol level, which is another hormone
Right.
level, it's the one that protects you from things. So once it gets, like, for example, if you get a sprained ankle and start swelling, that's because that cortisol hormone is trying to protect your ankle. So that's what it
Mm-hmm.
does, right? So once the cortisols go high, then it's like pouring water in a cup. Then it's overflowing out of the cup. And then now
Yep.
you're looking at fat gain. Then you got stress levels that's out of whack. Your stress is high. Everything is out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's like an underlying thing that people don't realize. And I didn't realize it either when I first started. And I always felt bad for resting.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was
Yeah.
like, I shouldn't be resting. I have a goal. Um, but yeah, when you're exercising, you are putting your body under stress. So there is that as well. I mean, like emotionally, you can be releasing stress, but your body is also responding to the stress that you're putting on your body.
Oh,
So there's like
yeah.
it's like two different types of stress that we're talking about here. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. And like
Yeah.
in the beginning, I didn't know either. And I was like overdoing it. And then it also caused injuries, right?
Yeah.
Because you think you can still do it and then like you don't do it right because you're fatigued and
Yeah.
that muscle is really
Yeah.
weak. And
Yeah.
you try to go lift something really heavy and then you end up hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of other problems with
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah, you definitely are putting your body under stress
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
working out with
Absolutely.
the cortisol stuff.
Yeah. Because your body's trying to manage it. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
rest is important. Because now
Mm-hmm.
you allow your body to recuperate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that it does when you're talking about mental and emotional stress, you know, when it goes to just specifically weight loss, when you jump from the working out part to the weight loss part, when you try, as you said about vacation, when you put pressure on yourself to quickly lose, it can cause stress in that way,
Yep.
emotional stress. And then what I wrote, it also can lead to an unhealthy relationship with your food and body, the image
Yes.
of your body, right?
Right.
Which causes a whole different type of stress. So
Right.
now you overworking in the gym, you have stress from the emotion of wanting to lose weight, you don't think you look good. Now you connect that to that's just not a good combination,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right. And especially
So
if you have like problems like I do where I stress eat,
yeah, yeah,
Um, that, then you just overeat and then you kind of just give up because I've been there. I've been
Yeah,
at a point where I just wanted to give up because it wasn't
yeah,
working for me. But it was because I didn't understand the system. I didn't understand the process, and I was kind
yeah,
of doing it by myself at the time.
yeah,
And so yeah, this information is so vital. It's like to prevent yourself from getting into that rut, especially
yeah,
if you had, you know, if you eat like I do with
yeah,
stress eating and stuff like
yeah.
that, that I had to learn and control. But sometimes it still kicks in. Like sometimes when something really hard happens, it still kicks in. I still have to like say no to it, right? And say, no, I'm gonna go work out instead, you know, and maintain that habit.
But that's
So
good. That's good
it's
because
always
that's
a
a great
battle.
example that you're using. That's a great example that you're using because again, that goes back to that don't mean that it ain't still gonna come. That don't mean
Yeah, it
them
still
thoughts
hits
ain't gonna
me.
come. It's just about how do you respond to those thoughts?
Right.
How do you now that you know what it is, you prepare yourself for that battle. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? It's like
Yeah.
when Christ went into his wilderness, and every time you saw him go by himself, he was praying because he knew he didn't want to wait till he got in the battle to start praying and start to.
Hmm.
No, he prayed, got to God, asked God to give him. He put his armor on first, then he went out to the battle. Does
Yep.
that make sense? So,
Yeah.
like what you were saying for us, like, the mindset, like when you read Romans 12, it talks about renewing of the mind.
Hmm.
That's why having something sustainable won't cause you to look at yourself like I don't look good.
Right.
Ephesians says you are a masterpiece to God. He created
Hmm.
you. You are uniquely made to him. You are his creation. You are a masterpiece. So then that's why renewing of the mind is so important. So you don't live in condemnation and don't walk around looking at yourself feeling bad. Not does that make sense? Because if it's
Yeah.
unsustainable, and then then not only that, your mind and mental is all over the place. So you're not renewing your mind. Then you're allowing health risks, not just physical, but mentally and spiritually to begin to happen too. Because you're not just building your physical muscles, you're building your spiritual muscles as well.
Hmm.
Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Oh yeah. And when you're in that weakened state from so many different angles, guarantee the enemy is going to attack you.
Oh man.
Right? And you're going to be so vulnerable to that. So, you
Yeah.
know, and everybody still goes through it. You know, I
Yeah.
just told you before we started the live feed, you know, or the recording, I told you that yesterday I didn't want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
But it was really like I had a lot of heavy stuff on my heart and I wanted to just kind of sit and think about it. I'm like, you know, I need to just go to the gym and release whatever, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, just trusting the Lord that it'll make me feel better because it
Yeah.
usually does.
Yeah.
But like on my drive there, I'm listening to worship music. I'm talking to him the whole way there. I get there, I do my thing, I walk out, and I don't even think about it anymore, right? I love saying, okay, Lord, it's in your hands, right? I'm just so, you know, it's a way that I use to combat falling into all of those different traps and making myself vulnerable, even though I seriously did not feel like it. I debated and it took me an hour because I got my shoes on and I sat there and waited, you know? And then I got my stuff packed and then I waited, you know, and I still made the decision to go because I usually do, but just realize that the enemy does attack you when you're at a vulnerable state. You're not going to feel like it, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And when you've done that over time, it might, you know, for me, I might have those pause moments, but I still go, you know,
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
And so you will create those habits and you will, and then as you incorporate the Lord into that as well, it just removes so much, mitigates so much of that vulnerability,
Yeah.
so much of the health
Yeah.
risk, so much of the, you know, mental, bad mental state that you could be in. And I walked out of the gym just feeling fine.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And that adding the Lord is a process because you got to grow a relationship with him. So that's a
mhm.
process in order for you can have that habit. So everything that he has for us is a process so we can begin to create good habits. So that way
Yeah,
now it becomes a part of our life, right? It's just not for that moment. Because
right.
what we do every day, the practice that we do, I'll go back to God. God practiced praying. Jesus practiced
Hmm.
praying. He
Right.
went away and practiced many a times. I say the P's. He prayed, then he practiced, he prayed, and then he presented himself. So after he got done doing that stuff, when he came
Yeah.
out, he was ready to present himself
Right.
battle ready, I should say, ready
Yeah.
for battle, right? Well, it's the same way we have to be. It's a daily practice. Being disciplined is a practice. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna say it again. It don't just because okay, you do best in the today don't mean you about to pass it tomorrow. You know what I mean? What you want to do is have more good days than bad days.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that way, because you're disciplined, when you do have them down days, you get right back up. You don't
Yep.
stay down long, and you give
Right.
yourself grace. You know, sustainability is also about giving yourself grace to say, okay, I didn't have it today, but I will get it tomorrow. You got me
Mm-hmm.
today, but I will get it tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that definitely needs to have like a mind shift change because, everyone thinks discipline is like perfect and you're
No.
doing it day in, day out, and that's just not real life, you
Right,
know?
right. It's a everyday working process. You got to work
Hmm.
at it. It don't just
Yep.
come. If you it don't just it's an everyday process. So you have to be prepared to do that. Now, the second thing I wanted to discuss, because we just went through the pitfalls of like not following the process, fast tracking, or trying to do quick fixes, was this some of the pitfalls of a health risk, a lack of sustainability, and then mental and emotional stress. Now, some of the benefits of taking it one day at a time
Mm-hmm.
or focus through the process is having good focus and daily choices. When you
Mm-hmm.
take it one day at a time, right? You're concentrating on your daily decisions will help you build healthy habits over
Yep.
time. Does that make sense? And,
Yep.
and each small step contributed to a long-term success,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I also said making the process less overwhelming, but more meaningful to you
Yeah.
because you took the time to do it. What do you have to say to that, man?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. You know, even the knowledge that you gain, the experience that you gain, it doesn't come in one day.
Yeah, yeah,
You accumulate that. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. The second one is mindfulness and presence. And what I put was that emphasizing the day-to-day progress encourage mindfulness. And then I said it allows you to appreciate the small victories
mhm,
and remain present in the journey. And then I
yeah,
said, rather than being fixated on the distant goal. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah.
And that's part of what God is saying. God is saying that we know what the goal is, but you still got to plant your seeds. Of course, I know you want a whole field of farming crops, but you got to
Yeah.
plant your seeds and not only just plant it, there's some work you got to do. You got to dig, you
Right.
got to do some things in order for the fruit or the harvest to become. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Absolutely.
third one is building resilience. When you take it day by day, stick in the process, you build resilience. And what I said was gradual progress teaches resilience and patience.
Mm-hmm.
Overcoming small challenges each day builds confidence and it strengthens your ability to handle larger obstacles in the future. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Those are those moments where like one day you just wake up and you're like, I can't believe I'm this far because
Yeah,
you weren't, totally like focused on the end goal. You
yeah,
were enjoying the moment, going it day by day. Otherwise, if you're so focused on that and like every day, and sometimes I'm guilty of this because I'm trying to check my muscle gain.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like every
yeah,
day, if you're always just checking for the change, it makes it so much longer.
yeah,
But it's really those moments where like you notice it one day,
yeah,
right? And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm here, right?
yeah,
Like I made it,
yeah,
and that's like so rewarding. And that's
yeah.
like, I feel like that brings me anyway, the most joy is when
Yeah.
I have those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And when the moments come to, uh, I think you used the word abundance or prosperity because now you're looking at your oak tree that you planted
Yeah.
actually start to provide leaves. Now you see the leaves coming off that tree. And
Yeah.
now as you see leaves, oh, I want to see some more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as you see more, it begins to make you want to work harder. It makes you want to stick to the process because you see, I guess you see process, you see progress, I should say.
Hmm.
And that's the key. God is more focused on your progress, not your perfection, because he
Right.
is perfect. So you're perfected through him. And in order to be through him, you got to be willing to go through the progress, right?
Yes.
The process, right? To in order to get the progress, to even feel the perfection that he has already surrounded around us, right? Because
Mm.
we're not perfect. That's why, because if we was perfect, he wouldn't have to die on the cross for our crazy selves, right? But that's why he died on the cross. So as we begin to understand that, then we can begin to take it one step at a time, put one
Yep.
foot in front of the other, one day, one moment at a time. Because you'll get so, like you said, the key, I love that you'll get so much joy, and
Hmm.
it'll humble you, and you'll appreciate it more because you put
Oh
that
yeah.
work in.
Oh
You
yeah.
put that work in. You know what I mean? And nobody can take it from you.
Yep.
Nobody. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I have to be thankful that, thank God we're not perfect. Like
Oh yeah.
it relieves so much pressure off of me with just a whole bunch of stuff in life. It's like, well, I'm just gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else to do. I
Yeah.
don't know anything, you know.
So
And so
the conclusion that I came up with was choosing to take a weight loss or life changes one day at a time is
mhm,
aligned both with um, God's health, well, three, God's health, science, and spiritual wisdom, because everything is made by him, right? So if
I
we
like
can
it.
align ourselves with that, then we can, by focusing focusing on managing it and managing our daily actions, we create being sustainable and having sustainable habits that leads to long-term success and a fuller life. This approach reduces stress, builds resilience, and encourages a mindful, present, focused mindset that is both rewarding and effective.
Yeah, I
Um,
love it.
and I just think when it comes to that, we have to be aware and be mindful of those things, because we easily can get lost in the trends, the quick fixes, and
Hmm.
all of that, because one, we're comparing, or two, we look at ourselves and don't like what we see. But none of that is true in the scripture. There's nowhere
Hmm.
God said you're ugly. There's nowhere God said, I don't like you. Now, he's gotten mad at us because we done some foolish things, but his love for us, it says in the scripture, there's nothing that we could do to separate us from his love. Nothing.
Right.
There's nothing. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, we have to be willing to love ourselves as much as he loved us, because he sent his son. I said something to someone one day. I told them that, my daughter, for some of you don't know, Anointed Touch was made through my daughter. And my daughter
Hmm.
died of cancer 14 years ago. And she was such an anointing to me. She touched me to be a blessing to us. So that's how the name Anointed Touch came. And I remember I was telling this person, and I said, my daughter was laying there. And most parents, I would say, I don't want to speak, but I believe you would do the same. I said, I loved her so much that I would have switched places in a minute just so
Hmm.
she can live.
Right.
If they would have said the only way she could live is somebody take the cancer, well, sign me up, because that's how
Hmm.
much I loved my daughter. I would have laid there and just said, let her live, let her have some life, right?
Right.
But on the flip side, when you think about it, God loved us so much, he didn't move. He didn't tell him to get up. He let him take that whipping. That's how much he loved us.
Hmm.
That he loved us so much, he let his son die without taking his place. Now that's some type of love. Because
Yeah.
the normal us, we would have took their places, because that's how much we love our kids,
Right.
right? What I'm saying is, if he loved us that much, then we only have the right to love ourselves. in a humble way, not that
Right.
superficial, conceited way. I'm not talking about that. In a humble way. And knowing that he loves us like that, we don't have to compare ourselves to nobody. That's
Hmm.
why renewing our mind and staying aligned with him matters even in our fitness journey. Does that make sense? Is any of that
Yeah.
making sense, or did I go too?
No, it does. It's beautiful. It really does. And it's it's enough, right? Like the Lord is enough. And if he says that this is who we are, then that's who we are. And that should be enough, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Culture puts so much spins on stuff. And it depends on which culture you're from,
yeah,
right? Like some people like long necks, some people like small feet.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
whatever's beautiful is different per culture too.
yeah,
And so aligning ourselves with the with what the Lord thinks, it's like the ultimate truth, right?
yeah,
So that we're not feeling these feelings and then having the enemy attack us because we're believing these lies,
yeah,
which is also lies that we feel about ourselves or
yeah,
what we don't like about ourselves.
yeah,
There's things that I want to improve. It doesn't mean I hate myself though,
yeah,
you know. And if I
absolutely.
don't get to improving them, I'm totally fine with it too.
Yeah,
It's just little goals. And
yeah,
so there has to be that separation of like having goals for yourself, being committed, um, doing what you need to do to get yourself into a healthy state, but then not creating, I guess, an idol out of it.
yeah. There you go.
And
Yeah,
then like hating myself because I don't look a certain way or, feeling however about myself because I didn't do something that day.
yeah,
It's just a goal. And,
yeah,
there's always
yeah,
going to be something else that comes up in the day that maybe didn't prevented you from hitting that goal, but then there's always tomorrow.
yeah. That's why he said, worry about today. Tomorrow
Yeah,
has his own problems. And long as God wake you up, you always got another chance.
yeah.
You always got another chance. But before we leave and before we go, do you have any other things you wanted to say, Ma, before I give the invitation?
No, I love everything that you put together. It's very well thought out. I love the biblical aspects of it because it's true. And I love the fact that we're incorporating the Lord into it because he's ultimately, the one that knows where we should go and what we need to do and what
Yeah,
he has for us. So,
yeah, yeah. And as always, I appreciate my. I mean, as you see, she's full of knowledge, and but she's also full of the Lord. So I think the being full of the Lord is so much more because I know, like we saw in the scripture, the Pharisees was full of knowledge, but it didn't lead them to the Lord.
mhm,
Right?
mhm,
And her faith, as in Thessalonians 3:3, I can't remember if it's Second Thessalonians first, I think it's second, where it says, the Lord's faithfulness will strengthen us and protect us, basically. And because of your faithfulness and because of his faithfulness, mine don't need more faith. She just sleeps in God's faithfulness. So because
mhm.
she sleeps
Thank
in
you.
his faithfulness, she she allows his strength to pour into her, which protects her from all other things around. So, I appreciate her and thank her so much for always being on here. And just like with myself, we always went like this. We weren't always, um, if you want to call it holy roly or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
We weren't always the greatest, and sometimes still not the greatest fitness people
Nope.
because we make mistakes too. But what we did was accept Christ's invitation.
Yeah.
And what I'm telling you is, I just want to give the invitation to you all, to those that may be seeking and wanting to know and have a peace and to have a
Mhm.
joy and to be able to talk to someone. And I'm talk to someone who understands and who loves you. As I said, there's nothing you could do to separate his love. Maybe you're in a place in your life where you want to know who he is and you just don't know how. All you got to do is take one step forward. He'll take three steps towards you.
Yeah.
And I just want to give the invitation to you, to reach out to me and I can maybe help you get to somewhere or find a good uh a teaching church, a Bible teaching church that's going to teach you, the things that you need so you can begin to build that relationship, get connected with other Christians to help you build that relationship that you need with Christ. And all you have to do is say, yes, I accept you as my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I believe that you rose from the grave. I believe that you hung on the cross for me, so I can be justified and sanctified. And that's all it takes. And to repent of your sins and turn away from them and start a new life. As we say, renew your mind and start over. So I just wanted to give that invitation. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll see y'all later.